When real life gets in the way of the important things start stacking up in the game room. Okay, I was bad. I was very, very bad. I apologize. During this video, I didn't entirely follow these steps. I kept forgetting to do my untap step. Basically, as you can see here, you're supposed to start your turn, you untap, any cost that you have to pay get paid in the upkeep step. Then you go to your draw, then you actually get to do your stuff. Then you go and you attack or block if you're the defending player. You get all your damage and stuff out of the way. You get a second main phase, and then you actually end your turn and clean up anything that needs to be cleaned up, like damage gets removed, etc. from creatures. But yes, I was bad. I apologize. Please don't judge me too harshly. Hello, everybody. Alright, so this is kind of the continuation of our Learn to Play Magic series here. It's sort of been long overdue. So now that we kind of know, what Magic is, the layout of the cards, etc. We're going to do a little sort of mock game here. I already got a deck shuffled up. It's a deck I actually started to build when I first started to play Magic, way back when. So what this sort of technique, as it were, is called, it's actually a deck building technique that I learned. I've only ever heard it referred to as goldfishing, because your opponent doesn't exist. It's it's you just looking in the mirror, as it were, playing against an imaginary opponent who doesn't have any creatures, uh, any cards to play. It's basically just seeing if the deck with draws and whatnot more or less does what you envisioned it doing, um, before you actually start playing against opponents and possibly get frustrated, because if you're at a local game store or at a friend's house, what have you, and that's the only deck that you brought, well, now you're gonna have a pretty boring, cruddy night if it doesn't work at all. So what we'll do is instead of shuffle this up, we'll draw out my hand and I'll place it down here, instead of holding it hidden because there's nobody to hide it from, and that way you can see what I've got. So you start off by drawing 7 cards. Okay, so here we go. So turn 1, because I'm going first, I don't draw a card. So turn 1, I'm going to play a land from my hand, tap that to get 1 green mana out of the land, which then lets me play my Llanowar Elves, which, as you can see, costs 1 green to play. It's a 1/1, so 1 power, 1 toughness, and has the ability of tap, so turn it sideways like the land is to activate it, which means I can't use it anymore on that turn, to add 1 green mana to your mana pool. So I'm going to play that. Now the thing with that is it has summoning sickness. What that is that it's unusable on the turn it comes in. Beginning of my next turn, I'm able to start tapping it to use it or to attack. So that's all I can do because I have no more mana available to me. Bring my hand together there. So I would pass turn. Opponent does nothing. I draw because it's my second turn. I'm going to play my 1 land that I'm allowed to play per turn after I untap. So I now have 3 mana available. So I'm going to tap 1 forest for the enchantment Wild Growth, which for 1 green to play is an enchant land, so it goes on land, which is whenever Wild Growth adds 1 mana to your mana pool whenever target land is tapped for mana. So it means that instead of adding 1 green mana, whenever this forest is tapped, it's now going to add 2. So I'm then going to tap Llanowar Elves for a green mana to play the second wild growth that I have in my hand on the same land. That now means that technically when I tap this land, I don't get 1, I don't get 2, I get 3 green mana. So I'm going to do that now, which lets me bring out my Chromosome Warchief. So he is a 2 power, 2 toughness creature. He costs 2 of anything and 1 green to play. And he makes beast spells that I play cost 1 colorless less to play. And for a colorless and 1, I can regenerate target beast. Which means if a beast would be destroyed or dealt damage, it's not destroyed. Instead, it's removed from combat, all the damage is taken off it, and it comes into play tapped, or becomes tapped. Next up, I would say go, and opponent does nothing, so I draw my card. I untap everything. Play my land that I just drew. Now, I have a 5/5 for 6 beast named Rocks in my hand here, and it says that I may have him deal combat damage to defending players though it weren't blocked, and he has a regenerate ability for 2 and 1 green. I also have a enchant creature in my hand for 1 green mana that gives the enchanted creature +2/+0 and trample, and whenever the enchantment would be put into the graveyard, it returns to my hand instead. So, it'd be nice if I could play all of these, but that's 7 total. So let's see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Only 6 mana. But, because Chromosome Warchief makes my beast spells, which that is, cost 1 less, this actually only costs 3 and 2 green. So, if I go and tap for 1 green mana, tap for 3 green mana, tap for a green mana, and tap for a green mana, that lets me play my Rocks and enchant it with Rancor. So you slide that underneath, showing that it's on that creature. I would then say go, because he is a little too important for me to risk in combat. Even though obviously at this point there's nobody there to play against, I still don't want to risk him because the idea is that this is a mock game. In a real game, odds are the opponent would have something. So I untap, turn 4. Cool, I get a beast. It's called Skyshroud Ridgeback. It costs 1 green mana. It's 2 power, 3 toughness, with fading 2. And there's the little reminder text of how fading works. So it has 2 counters on it, fade counters. At the beginning of your upkeep, remove a fade counter from it. If you can't, you have to sacrifice it. Basically, if you can read and have the general gist of how the cards are laid out and what each one represents, you can play the game. Everything is read the card, and it will explain what it does and how to use it. So, what I would do is then attack with Rocks. So something I didn't cover while I was recording this video was blocking. Now, when I attacked with Rocks here, technically the opponent has the ability or the choice to block now. If you want to think of blocking in a thematic sense, we'll say instead of using Rocks to attack, I was using, say I had a Ravenous Baloth here. So it's a 4/4, it has Sacrifice a Beast, you gain 4 life, but it doesn't have any sort of combat tricks, as it were. So I'm attacking with that. The opponent has a choice to block. We'll say the opponent blocks with this 1/1. Okay? If you want to think of it in a thematic sense, this guy is attempting to get to my opponent's life points. The opponent sends this one to block. They have to stop. He has to stop advancing to fight him. They deal their damage to each other. This one ends up dying because it has only 1 toughness. This has 4 power. This one stays alive because it's 4 toughness versus the 1 power. There we go. But he's done. He has stopped his advance to fight that creature and combat ends. If, however, in the example that I have there, Rocks had Rancor on him. Well, Rancor gives trample. +2/+0 and trample. So he is a 6/4 trampler. In the same scenario where I attack and it blocks, he gets stopped, deals his damage enough to deal with this creature, which in this case is a 1. Now he's got 6 power. Well, he's got 5 extra damage then. He didn't need that. Well, he just tramples on, pushes past, and deals the 5 damage to the opponent. Now, in older cards, like these, rocks. You may have rocks deal damage to defending player as though it weren't blocked. So what he can do, even without Rancor, without Trample, anything like that, is I can say, I am attacking. And I can have him deal his whole damage, even though the opponent went, no, I'm blocking with my 1/1. I can have him deal all his damage straight to the opponent. So the opponent will take 5 in this case. And no damage will be dealt to this Elvish Visionary. But 1 damage from Elvish Visionary will be dealt to rocks. So this guy, especially if you can power him up, is very good for pushing through. It's also makes his regeneration awesome for him to have, because he can sit there and deal damage over and over and over again to the opponent, and as long as I have that 3 mana available to regenerate him, he's not going anywhere. Because he's not dealing any damage to the creatures, he's dealing it all to the opponent. But anyways, thought I would quickly put that in there, because that was my bad when I was making the video initially. And now back to our regularly scheduled programming. He's going to deal 5 damage, because that's his power, but Rancor gives him +2, remember, +2/+0. So he is actually a 7/5, so he's dealing 7 damage. Opponent is now down to 13 from 20. Second main phase, just before I end my turn after combat, I'm going to tap that to put out Skyshard Ridgeback. And I just have to remember he has 2 counters on him. I then end my turn. Opponent goes. 5th turn. Card called Naturalize. So for anything and a green, destroy target artifact or enchantment. In this, that doesn't really matter because I don't want to destroy my own stuff. That's for your opponent. I forgot to untap rocks. See, it's so easy to forget steps. It is, and I've been playing for how long? Okay, so now it goes to my attack step. I'm going to attack for 7. Attack with him, 8, 9. I'll attack with him, 11. So, attacking for 11, he already took 7. Opponent's down to 2, I do believe. I would then say pass. Next turn, tap everything. Draw my card. It's a beast called Ravenous Baloth, so I can sacrifice another beast to gain 4 life. It's a 4 power, 4 toughness, and it costs 2 colorless, 2 of anything, and 2 green. Obviously, it's actually only 1 colorless because of Chromosome Warchief right now. But I'm just going to hold him in my hand in case my opponent does anything to get rid of my creatures. And I'm going to save up the mana to be able to regenerate my beasts if need be. So with that, I would declare an attack with rocks for 7, and that would be game. So you can kind of see just how this game sort of lays out, how it plays. Obviously, there's no fight or too much strategy involved with this. This is more testing the theory of the deck and whether the deck should work the way I planned it to, which this deck is supposed to hit hard and fast, and 3 land, that's what, 6 turns I think I took there, and the opponent's gone. That's a pretty reasonable length of time for a 60 card game to go. Obviously, again, this is just a test method, but you can kind of see the ebb and the flow of the game and how it's supposed to go. Next up, if anybody wants me to continue this series, I would say I'd go with some deck building tips, because really, like I've said in previous videos, the best way to learn, videos online are awesome. They're a very helpful guide. ones from other channels like Tolarian Community College. The professor is amazing. I love his videos. I love what he does. His reviews are awesome. Um, you can watch them until you're blue in the face, but until you actually grab the cards, have a real opponent across from you and people around you that can help you, it's going to be missing something just watching these videos. So my suggestion would be, again, grab some cards, go down to your local game store, find some friends that actually play and can teach you in person. Um, as far as deck building goes, well, that's where I really start to love this game because I love the way that you can do the thematics and do so much with these cards, and you can find different arts and whatnot for them. Um, Stuff like Land War Elf's been printed a million times, and there's so many different borders and arts and whatnot that you can get for it. Even people get down to their land having a specific art on their land, and it's stuff like that when it comes to deck building that is just so cool that I love the thematics and the art and the feel of the decks. So yeah, if anybody wants to uh, see more, leave a comment down below. Like, subscribe, share the heck out of this video, and we'll see if we can't get some more going. Talk to you later, and have some good games.